Hello everyone, my name is Catherine Sofel. I am a registered dietitian, and today I will be discussing food safety for caregivers, specifically looking at allergies and food intolerances. So today's objectives, we are going to go over food sensitivities and food allergies, basically the difference between the two items, different reactions that are going to be caused by both food sensitivities and food allergies, common food allergies found. We're going to discuss the management for residents in those who do have food allergies or intolerances, and then we're going to go over some question and answers. So food sensitivities versus food allergy. So the difference between the two is food sensitivities and allergies is basically the body's response. So food sensitivity or intolerance triggers a response by the digestive system, so stomach, small intestine, and the regular, gastrointestinal tract. And food allergy causes an immune response reaction. So the whole body, the immune system is going to, create a reaction within the body. For food sensitivity, it's also known as food intolerance, so you might hear me interchange the two, food intolerance, food sensitivities, basically the same thing. And food sensitivity requires a larger portion of an offending food, so a food item that causes an intolerance, requires a larger amount of that food, and you can see that there is a longer response time, so it may take hours or days to elicit an adverse response or signs or symptoms of a sensitivity to the food. The reactions are non-life-threatening, thankfully. And food basically triggers an intolerance within the digestive system. So again, it's going to be the digestive tract, the stomach, small intestine that is going to, people will have those reactions within the digestive tract. And this is basically due to the body's inability to break down the food. So you ingest a food, but the body is not equipped in order to break it down properly. And so when it is in the digestive tract, it can cause some reactions and responses to that item. The diagnosis for food sensitivity, it can be difficult to diagnose due to the lack of reliable testing. It's not a set in stone, diagnosis, so it can be difficult to narrow down what foods may be causing digestive, issues. And really, the best thing in order to, properly diagnose, or one way to diagnose due to the lack of testing, is to provide a food diary. So, people will write down a food diary, everything that they ate for the day, and then they will also keep track of any symptoms that they, occur throughout the day, and try to help narrow down the food that may be causing some type of sensitivity or disruption within the gastrointestinal tract. And then, people can then eliminate some of the most common food sensitivity food items, and then slowly introduce them one at a time to see if a particular food item is causing any type of reaction. So that's another way to evaluate if or what item is causing a reaction within the body. And the causes of food sensitivities or intolerances are not having the right enzymes to digest certain foods. So if your body does not have the right enzyme to break that food item down in the digestive tract, then it can cause a reaction or symptoms. For instance, lactose intolerance. So anyone who has a lactose intolerance, they lack the enzyme called lactase in order to break down lactose in milk. So lactose in milk is a naturally occurring sugar in milk. However, in people who do not have that lactase enzyme, when they consume the milk, they can't break down that sugar, and so inability to break down that sugar can cause some, response and reaction. And then individuals might be sensitive to food additives such as sulfate, MSG, or artificial food coloring. And then there are also pharmacological factors, so sensitivity to caffeine or other types of chemicals. And there are also sensitivities to sugars found in naturally occurring foods. So broccoli, onions, Brussels sprouts specifically have a naturally occurring sugar that can be difficult to digest if someone lacks the enzymes or the ability to break it down. So consuming any of these items, if you are sensitive to them or someone is sensitive, can cause a response within the digestive tract. The top 8 most common food intolerance foods are going to be dairy, so that lactase or the lactose within milk, and it's going to be higher amounts of lactose in milk and ice cream. Cheese is a little bit more easily digestible if you lack that enzyme, just because of the process when making the cheese. Cheese does have less lactose in it, so some people who do have a lactose intolerance may not be able to tolerate milk or ice cream, but they may be able to consume cheese. So it's all going to be dependent on the specific person and what their body is able to tolerate. Next, we have gluten. So gluten is a protein component that is found in barley, oats, and rye. And we'll get into more about gluten intolerance later on, because I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with gluten-free, gluten intolerance foods like that. Next, we have caffeine. So some people are very sensitive to caffeine. Can cause rapid heartbeat, sweating. So some people do have an intolerance to being able to break down that component. And then salicylates, which are natural compounds that are found in some fruits, vegetables, teas, coffee, spices, nuts, and honey. So this component, again, some people may not be able to tolerate this component that is found in these food items. And this is a picture of gluten. So some of the foods that are going to have gluten, wheat products, or mostly wheat products. So you have bread, pretzels, bagels, pasta, crackers, stuff like that that has, that gluten component in it. And then number 5 is going to be amines, which is a natural component found in fermented foods such as cured meats, dried fruits, citrus fruits, avocados, aged cheeses, smoked fish, vinegar, and buttermilk. Number 6 is FODMAPs. So these are a specific type of sugars naturally occurring components in several food items such as apples, soft cheeses, honey, milk, artichokes, breads, beans, lentils, and beer. Number 7 is sulfites, and this is a natural compound that is found in dried fruit, wine, apple cider, canned vegetables, potato chips, and baked goods. And lastly, fructose, which is a sugar found in soda, honey, apples, apple juice, high fructose corn syrup. So many food items do have high fructose corn syrup added to it. So this can be a big component that can cause food intolerance if the person's body is not able to break down fructose. And since fructose is found in many food items nowadays, it's pretty common to have this reaction if you are intolerant to fructose. It's also found in watermelon, cherries, pears, and sugar snap peas. So symptoms of food sensitivity or food intolerance are going to be gas and bloating, diarrhea, constipation, cramping, nausea, and a headache. So as you can see from this picture here, if the food intolerance, within the digestive tract, can cause a large amount of water then to go into the digestive tract in order to help flush it out more easily. So not uncommon to have bloating, stomach pain, diarrhea associated with a food sensitivity or intolerance. So food allergies then. Food allergies or an allergic reaction is the body's response to a food component. So it's the immune response caused by a food component, and it causes an IgE reaction. And IgE are just allergic antibodies. So we have antibodies that fight off substances within the body, such as bacteria, viruses, that are known as foreign components to the body. The body doesn't recognize them, and so in people with allergies, the body does not know how to recognize that food component, and so it causes this IgE reaction to happen, and the antibodies are released. And it causes an immediate reaction, in the cascade of events. Then histamine is released in the body's, immune response to something foreign within the body. And it can result from an antigen of a food source, or that allergic or component of the food. The antigen component of that food is the body's sense of the foreign food item or foreign component that causes an allergic reaction. And it's really the protein that is found in that food that the body is not able to recognize. So IgE, like I said, it's immunoglobulin E. It is an antibody that is produced in the body, the immune system, in response to a perceived threat. So the immune system basically overreacts to that allergen by producing IgE, and it travels to cells that release chemicals, causing an allergic reaction. And that allergen, again, is that substance that causes an allergic reaction. And even small, trace amounts of food can cause a reaction. So we're going to watch a short video.
During an allergic reaction, the immune system responds to a normally harmless substance as if it were a threat. In some people, common foods such as milk, eggs, and peanuts can trigger such a reaction. So how does this work? If you have a food allergy, your immune system makes a type of antibody called immunoglobulin E, or IgE. This class of antibody binds to immune cells called mast cells and basophils that circulate throughout your body. When you are exposed to the food allergen, it attaches to the IgE antibodies. This binding signals the immune cells to release histamine and other chemicals that cause allergy symptoms, such as swelling of the lips, hives, and shortness of breath. Because mast cells and basophils rapidly release these chemicals, an allergic reaction typically occurs within 30 minutes after exposure. The most severe kind of reaction is called anaphylaxis, which can cause a sudden drop in blood pressure, trouble breathing, dizziness, and possibly death. People with food allergy and poorly controlled asthma are more susceptible to severe reactions. An anaphylactic episode must be treated with a hormone called epinephrine, which maintains blood pressure and opens up the airways. To deal with accidental exposure, people diagnosed with food allergy are prescribed a medical device called an autoinjector that delivers a single dose of epinephrine into the thigh muscle. Antihistamines alone are not an effective treatment for anaphylaxis. There is no cure for food allergy. The best way to manage the condition is to avoid the allergenic food, read food labels carefully, wash hands and household surfaces, and always carry an epinephrine autoinjector. If you are accidentally exposed to a food allergen, seek medical help immediately. The National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, or NIAID, conducts and supports research to better understand, prevent, and treat food allergy. In 2010, an expert panel sponsored by NIAID issued guidelines to assist healthcare professionals in diagnosing and managing the disease. These guidelines and a summary for patients, families, and caregivers can be found on the
So just a little visual representation of an allergic reaction response. So diagnosis of a food allergy can be done a couple of ways. So one is going to be a skin prick test, and this provides quick results. So basically the skin is pricked with a small amount of the allergen to see if it elicits a response. And so if someone does have an allergic reaction or an allergy to that component, you'll see a little red bump that appears if it is a positive. And then there are blood tests that can be done. The blood tests measure the IgE component and the number of overall IgE antibodies in the blood. So specific IgE tests measure the levels of IgE antibodies in response to individual allergens. And having a higher level of these IgE antibodies is an indication of an allergy. So symptoms of allergic reactions. There are two different types. So you're going to have mild allergic reactions or severe. The mild allergic reaction signs are going to be hives. So you can see this picture here on the right-hand side. This is going to be a representation, and this is a pretty severe case of hives in my opinion. Very red, blotchy, and you may be familiar with this reaction if you've ever had or seen someone with this before. Can also cause itching of the skin, nasal congestion, a rash, scratchy throat, and watery or itchy eyes. So these are going to be mild allergic reaction signs. Now, severe allergic reaction signs are going to be abdominal cramping or pain, diarrhea and vomiting, pain or tightness in the chest, difficulty swallowing, dizziness, heart palpitations, so the heart is going to be racing very fast, swelling of the face, eyes, or tongue, weakness, wheezing, and difficulty breathing. And then it can also lead to unconsciousness. So anaphylaxis is the most severe reaction and can be life-threatening. And it is a severe and sudden allergic reaction that can develop within seconds after exposure to an antigen or to that component that an individual is allergic to. It can be serious and life-threatening. It causes swelling of the airway, so difficulty breathing if that airway is, swollen. Inability to breathe, sudden drop in blood pressure, and this can, result in possible death if it's not treated in a timely manner. So anaphylaxis requires immediate medical attention, and individuals who have been diagnosed or who have severe food allergies sometimes will carry an EpiPen, and you may be familiar with this term. Again, we saw in that video just a tiny little pen that has a dose of epinephrine in it that can be administered immediately. Again, because within 30 minutes someone can start to go into anaphylactic shock. So it's extremely important that if someone does have a severe food allergy, that an epinephrine has been prescribed to them. So the treatment for severe food allergy reaction, mild reaction, in most cases can be treated with over-the-counter antihistamines. So antihistamines is going to reduce the histamine response in the body, and this is something like Benadryl. However, severe reactions do require immediate medical attention. So it's going to require an epinephrine injection from the EpiPen. And if an individual is going into, anaphylaxis, it is important to have them stay relaxed. So lie the individual flat on their back. This is if they are, unconscious and unable to kind of respond. And you want to elevate their legs, and this is to keep blood flowing, to their brain. And to, have blood that is not pooling in their legs. And then cover them with a blanket as well. And then, obviously, prior to this, calling 911, getting medical help. But these are going to be the components, as you wait for medical personnel to arrive. So the top 8 foods account for 98% of allergic reactions in individuals. So those top 8 foods are going to be milk, eggs, fish, shellfish, tree nuts, peanuts, wheat, and soy. And there are differences between, allergies found in children and adults. So the most common food allergies in children are going to be cow's milk, eggs, peanuts, soy, fish. And it is possible for children to outgrow these, allergies as they age. Very common for them to outgrow them and no longer be an issue for, consuming them. However, the most common food allergies in adults are going to be tree nuts, peanuts, fish, shellfish, and wheat. So these are going to be the 5 components that we are going to be focusing on today and discussing. And then there are also 8 uncommon food allergies as well that may not be as prevalent. However, it is still possible that you have a resident or someone that does have an allergy to any of these food items. So red meat, beef, pork, lamb, sesame seeds, avocados, marshmallows, corn, mango, and dried fruit. So you can see from this picture, here's the corn, marshmallows, red meat, hot dogs. Oh, I'm sorry, I did not write hot dogs. Avocados, mango, and sesame seeds. So less common food allergy foods, but still prevalent, and you may come across these allergies. So we're going to discuss the most common food allergies in adults. As I mentioned, tree nut allergy. So there are a wide variety of tree nuts. So pistachios, chestnuts, hazelnuts, pecans, hickory nuts, Brazil nuts, macadamia nuts, cashews, walnuts, pine nuts, and almonds. So a large amount of tree nuts that are going to be, a part of that tree nut allergy. And triggers, so tree nuts, tree nut products, including nut oils or butters. And it is important to be mindful of that, tree nuts are often used in different food dishes. So if someone does have an allergy to tree nuts, it's extremely important to be mindful in preparation of food and the administration of food that, these food items are not a component of that dish to someone who does have an allergy to it. So often nuts are used as garnishes on salads, ingredients in a lot of Asian dishes, ice cream toppings, baking mixes, sauces, and desserts and baked goods. So again, if someone does have an allergy to tree nuts, very important that the food components that they are consuming, any of these are important that they are looked out for, and to make sure that these components are not served to a resident or that they are omitted from that dish specifically. So the symptoms of tree nut allergies are going to be abdominal cramps, diarrhea, difficulty swallowing, itching of the mouth, throat, eyes, and skin, nasal congestion or runny nose, nausea, shortness of breath, and anaphylaxis. So a pretty wide range of symptoms that someone may exhibit. And again, this is all going to be individual on the person. Not everybody with a tree nut allergy may experience an anaphylactic reaction. So it can be kind of difficult to, see what may be the cause, especially, nausea, diarrhea, abdominal cramps. This can be nasal congestion. These are pretty wide range of symptoms. But if someone, is exhibiting any of these symptoms and you're not sure what it could be caused from, definitely, taking a look at if they had a potential tree nut allergy exposure. And then peanut allergy. So peanuts is one of the most common causes of severe allergic reactions, and even trace amounts can cause life-threatening reactions or that anaphylactic response. So peanut exposure is quite common, and mistakes do happen. And so unfortunately, due to the severity of the trace small amounts that can cause reactions, it is not uncommon to have these accidental exposures happen. So exposure can be, a couple different types of contact. Direct contact is the most common cause of allergy in eating peanuts or peanuts containing foods. And it can also be caused by, a reaction can be caused by direct skin contact with peanuts that can trigger an allergic reaction. So for instance, if someone, had peanut butter on their hands and they go and shake someone else's hands, or if they have peanut butter on their hands and they touch a handrail, a doorknob, and then someone with, a severe allergic reaction to peanuts touches that peanut butter, it can elicit a severe allergic response. So the individual doesn't necessarily have to consume the peanut butter themselves. Even just touching it on their skin can cause a severe allergic reaction, which is why, in school systems specifically, they have, some schools do have strict regulations as far as the school has to be completely tree nut free or peanut free because of the increased risk and just that small trace amount that can, elicit a response in someone. It can be very dangerous. The next possible exposure is cross-contact, so an intended introduction of peanuts into a product. And this can, happen during a variety of ways. But basically that food item is being exposed to peanuts during processing or handling. So during production, if peanut oil or ground up peanuts or peanut butter somehow makes its way into a dish on accident, whether that not be if you're utilizing peanut product and you're not thoroughly wiping down the table after using that product, or a cutting board or anything, food blender, anything that comes into contact with a peanut product, if it is not cleaned out properly, then it can accidentally then get into another dish and cause a reaction. And lastly, inhalation can cause an allergic reaction, and this can occur if dust or aerosols containing peanuts from a source such as peanut flour, so those tiny particles from the peanut flour, if that is inhaled, or peanut oil cooking spray. So the little aerosols, if you're using a cooking spray and those little particles make its way into the air and someone who has an allergy inhales that, it can also cause an allergic response. So more specifically with peanuts, because the allergic response, people who do have a severe peanut allergy can be very, very sensitive to, again, trace tiny amounts. And the peanut allergy symptoms, due to the severity of most peanut allergies, these symptoms typically occur within minutes of exposure. So it can cause skin reactions such as hives, redness, or swelling. In that picture that I showed you earlier on, the rash on the arm. It can cause itching or tingling around the mouth or throat, diarrhea, stomach cramps, vomiting, tingling of the throat, tightening of the throat. So again, that airway is being, constricted, or the throat begins to close up, which can cause shortness of breath or wheezing, a runny nose, and anaphylactic, lastly, that, severe response. So individuals who do have a peanut allergy, it is extremely important to follow a peanut-free diet and avoiding, a large amount of foods for, reduced potential exposure. So artificial nuts, beer nuts, cold press peanut oil, ground nuts, metallonas, mixed nuts, nuts in general, or any other type of nuts. So typically individuals who do have a peanut allergy, it is often recommended to avoid all nuts just due to, potential exposure or cross-contamination between those nuts. And some people likely have an allergy to, if they have a peanut allergy, they may have an allergy to other types of nuts as well. And obviously avoiding peanuts, peanut butter chips, peanut butter flour, peanut syrup, and any baked goods that do have peanut components within them. So avoiding all of these items. Next, we're going to go over fish allergies. So the list of fish allergies, or fishes that can cause an allergic reaction, is pretty long. So I only included some of them, but obviously there are more fish that can cause a reaction. Barramuda, cod, flake, salmon, snapper, trout, tuna, and whiting. So generally, if someone does have a fish allergy, it's recommended to avoid all types of fish, just to be on the safe side. And then shellfish allergy, a little bit different components of the seafood. So one person, may be able to consume fish, but they may not be able to consume shellfish. So for me, for instance, I can consume all types of fish and shellfish except for scallops. That's the only shellfish that actually causes an allergy within me. So again, it's going to be completely individual on the person. And again, the list of shellfish is quite long, so I only included some of them, but there are more obviously that can cause a reaction. So the first one's calamari, shrimp, scallops, crawfish, cuttlefish, crab, lobster, oysters, prawns, and squid. And allergic reactions can occur a couple different ways. So after eating the fish, and again within that 30-minute time period, so a pretty quick reaction or even less. Touching the seafood. So if someone does have a more sensitive reaction, even just like touching the seafood can cause a reaction. And inhaling fumes while cooking. So if a food item or a fish or seafood item is brought out to the table, in which there's a large amount of people there, and someone is sitting next to someone who is allergic to fish, and that person next to them is consuming fish, just the fumes alone and the juices can cause a reaction. So again, for me, for instance, if a food item of a scallop touches any of my food, just the juices alone from that scallop will cause a reaction. So signs and symptoms of an allergy are going to be raised red bumps, that hives, swelling of the lips, tingling of the throat or mouth, itchy skin and rash, runny nose, tightening of the throat, stomach cramps, pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, etc. And then, the worst reaction is going to be, again, that anaphylaxis that can occur in severe allergy reactions. So next we're going to go over wheat allergy. So wheat allergy is also pretty common, and because wheat is found in so many food items, it can be a little daunting, in order to avoid all products that do have a wheat in them, because it is in a variety of food items. So breads and breadcrumbs, cakes, muffins, cookies, pasta, couscous, farina, crackers, a wide variety of cereals are also made with wheat. Soy sauce does have wheat in it. Hydrolyzed vegetable proteins, meat products such as hot dogs, they are made with a type of wheat component. Dairy products such as ice cream may have wheat added into them. Natural flavorings, gelatinized starch, modified food starch, and vegetable gum. So very important that if someone does have a wheat allergy, that you are cautious of making sure that that person does not consume any of these foods that do have wheat. Nowadays, thankfully, there are a lot of alternatives to food components that are made without wheat, thankfully. So potato and rice are typically going to be the two main alternatives that products are now made with, in order to not have wheat a part of them. So like I said, the wheat flour alternative. So individuals can consume products that are made with wheat flour alternatives, and those are going to be rice, potato, rye, barley, and oats. And buckwheat. Now, it is important that if someone is allergic to wheat, they could also be allergic to barley, oats, and rye as well. So again, everyone is going to be individual on which types of food that elicit an allergic response. So if someone is allergic to barley, oats, and rye as well, then they would be able to consume rice and potato products only. So symptoms of a wheat allergy reaction. Again, a common theme here: swelling, itching, irritation of the mouth or throat, hives, that itchy rash on the skin, nasal congestion, headache, cramps, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and lastly, anaphylaxis. Anaphylaxis is going to be less common reaction in a wheat allergy. So I would say anaphylaxis is a much more common reaction in individuals with a nut allergy, a peanut allergy, or a seafood or shellfish allergy. So not common for anaphylaxis to be the result of someone that consumes wheat if they're allergic, but still possible, obviously, just less common. So there are some other food or immune system related conditions, like I said, celiac disease. So we're going to get into a little bit about celiac disease, and then eosinophilic gastrointestinal disorders, also known as EGIDs. So celiac disease may be common or something that you are familiar with, and this is going to be that gluten intolerance. So celiac disease is an autoimmune disorder in which gluten, a protein that is found in grain products, triggers an attack by the immune system on the lining of the small intestine. So nowadays I would say there are a lot higher diagnosis of celiac disease, but again, it can be difficult to diagnose this condition. So I think a lot of people think that they may have a wheat intolerance or gluten intolerance, but it's not necessarily an immune system response. So it is important to differentiate, between the two. If someone, is on a gluten-free diet, to ensure that they actually do truly have an immune, system disorder, because a lot of people just go on a gluten-free diet without any kind of rhyme or reason, and really the only reason would be, if they truly do have a celiac disorder or a true gluten intolerance. So if someone does have celiac disease, consuming gluten over and over and over again causes damage to the intestinal lining. So over time, the intestinal lining, basically within the intestine, we have these little villi that, that are sticking up within the intestine, and they help to break down food components, help absorb the food components. However, in someone who does have celiac disease, if they continually consume gluten, those little villi within the intestinal lining become damaged over time, and so individuals may not be able to absorb their food properly. They may have vitamin or mineral deficiencies because of this. Diarrhea is a pretty common response to continued damage to that intestinal lining. And symptoms of celiac disease is going to be severe abdominal pain, bloating, diarrhea, and fatigue. And this is going to occur, shortly after someone consumes gluten if they do have celiac disease. And the foods that have gluten in them specifically are going to be wheat, barley, and rye. So anyone with celiac disease needs to avoid these food components. So like I said, wheat, barley, and rye is going to be pretty commonly found in a lot of food items, that do have gluten. So bread, pasta, cereal, beer, baked goods, crackers, sauces. A lot of sauces, dressings, and gravy, they add flour to it or gluten, for the purposes of the dressing, and it helps with the thickness of it. And then soy sauce also does have gluten in it. So thankfully, again, nowadays, because of gluten or celiac disease is so common, most of these items, there are a variety of items that you can find that have alternative ingredients, such as that rice or potato that it's made from, instead of using gluten, so that individuals can also consume these. So for instance, they have gluten-free crackers, gluten-free bread, gluten-free soy sauce, gluten-free cereal, gluten-free pretzel. So a wide variety of gluten-free options now available for individuals who do have celiac disease. And EGID disorder, again, it is a rare condition, but you may come across it. And basically, the immune cells, that are not found in the digestive tract migrate to tissues of the esophagus, stomach, and intestine. So the esophagus, stomach, and intestines are going to be those, digestive tract components. And so immune cells that are not typically found in the digestive tract, go to the digestive tract. And so this can, cause a variety of conditions. So esophagitis, which is inflammation of the esophagus. So the esophagus is that component of your digestive tract that, it brings the food from your mouth down to your stomach. So it's that tube, basically. And if someone does have this condition, our immune cells are then found in the esophagus. And so what happens is, if a reaction occurs when someone consumes a food that causes, an immune response, it can cause swelling of the throat or the esophagus. So it can cause difficulty swallowing or food impaction. So food impaction is when food gets stuck within the esophagus. Because of that swelling, the food is not able to go down properly, so it can cause food impaction. And then secondly, gastroenteritis, so inflammation of the stomach. And this is also, gastroenteritis is also, known as like the stomach flu. So the inflammation of the stomach, due to whatever reason, becomes inflamed. And so this can cause abdominal pain, bloating, gas, and diarrhea. So again, it is going to be a rare condition. And there's no, food items specifically that cause this reaction. It's just, unfortunately, the immune cells that are not typically found in these places migrate there. And so when someone, consumes food, or even just in general not consuming food, the body may have an immune response because of those cells that are found in there. And lastly, so we're going to go over food labeling to kind of discuss the role of food labeling in allergies. So it is important for, caregivers, if someone does have an ingredient or a food allergy, to evaluate the food label ingredients and any potential cross-contamination. So if someone has a nut allergy, it's important that, if they're being provided food, that their food is made sure that it is not produced anywhere near peanuts or any component that could possibly cause cross-contamination. So, someone with a severe allergic reaction may need their food prepared separately away from, the other food items in order to reduce the risk of potential cross-contamination. And then making sure that, when that person is getting their food, that the ingredients are looked over very well to make sure that there are no potential, cross-contamination or food item that may cause a reaction. So in the U.S., the Food Allergen Label and Consumer Protection Act mandates nutritional labels on food packages and to identify specified food allergy sources. So the labels on food items, they have to have the list of any potential food allergy sources. So if a food item contains any of these top 8 ingredients, they have to be listed on the label in order to let the consumer know that, hey, there's a potential allergy in here. So it's more than just having the list of allergies or the list of foods in the ingredient level. They have to specify, potential allergies. So they have to specify if the ingredient has milk, eggs, fish, shellfish, tree nuts, peanuts, wheat, or soy. And it also may say, this product was produced in a facility that also has, one of these components in case, again, someone has a severe response. So sometimes even just consuming a food item that was around or a facility that also produces one of these food items to avoid that due to cross-contamination. So if an individual does have a food allergy, it's important to read the food labels. Again, if you're not sure if that person can have that food item, for instance, if someone is asking for crackers and they have a wheat allergy, it's important to identify and read the back of the label in case you're not sure, to look at A, the ingredients that are listed, and then B, identify, if it contains any of these top 8 allergies. So again, reading the ingredients to make sure that it is free of, let's say, for instance, if they have a wheat allergy, again, looking to see if it does have any of, that component in there, and then identifying if, again, this component, if it says that it does contain any of this. And then by looking at this that, it says specifically it contains egg, milk, and wheat. So if someone does have a wheat allergy, then you know that they would not be able to have this item. So nutritional care in long-term care facilities or assisted living facilities, and kind of your role in assisting with this. So identify residents with food allergies, intolerances, and sensitivities. Ensure proper documentation in the medical chart and a diet list. So very important that if someone does have a food allergy or any type of allergy to medication, substance, that it is documented properly within the medical record. It's also important that if someone, especially high-risk allergies, that they have the reaction that occurs as well. So if someone has, a peanut allergy, it's very, very, very important to specify what their reactions, just so you can be aware of in case they start exhibiting signs of this reaction, that you're aware of what to look out for. So if someone, develops hives from a wheat allergy, important that that is documented what their reaction is, so that way, in case an ingestion does happen or in case they start exhibiting any type of sign, then, you are able to look in the medical chart and identify what, if it is a possible reaction to a food item. So very important to, know your residents, know what their potential allergies are and the reactions that can occur if they consume that product. And again, being very mindful of even a trace amount of food can cause a reaction. So again, sitting next to someone in the dining hall who has, a seafood allergy, making sure that if they are sitting next to someone that how severe their reaction is and if they're even able to be around that food item due to potential, inhalation or juices being mixed. So very important to know, that even a trace amount can cause a reaction, and that you need to be very careful when placing people next to each other or in general. If someone does have an allergy, be very mindful of any potential sources of contamination or reaction that can occur. And good hygiene and avoidance of cross-contamination food while it is being prepared is super important. So again, if there is a peanut allergy or nut allergy or wheat allergy or any of those top food component allergies, that if food is being prepared, that things are washed out thoroughly. So food processors, cutting boards that are coming in contact with any of these common allergies, that those are again being properly washed in order to reduce risk of cross-contamination if someone does have an allergy allergy. And then again, being mindful of, aerosol juices, flour contamination, anything that can potentially contaminate someone else's food in case they do have an allergy. Washing hands very frequently, again, another way, if someone has a peanut allergy and there's peanut on their hands, washing your hands frequently before touching anything else in order to avoid contamination of other products, and eliciting a response or an allergic response if someone does have an allergy. And then being able to identify food labels for potential allergy information. So like I said before, if you are unsure if someone can have a specific food component, reading that food label for both the ingredients listed on there and, again, looking for if that component, has any of the allergy components listed on it as potential problems. And anyone with an allergy, that food must be avoided at all costs. So because, again, those tiny trace amounts can elicit a large response and can be, fatal to someone, it's extremely important that, a food allergy is taken seriously and that it is avoided, it has to be avoided. So residents with allergies to common foods, especially if you have severe reactions such as milk, wheat, eggs, they may need individualized diets for meals and snacks. So because milk, wheat, and eggs are pretty common food ingredients in a lot of food items, if someone has an allergy to any of these, they may need an individualized diet in order to ensure that there's no risk of cross-contamination and that they are getting the proper nutrients from, alternative menus or alternative foods to make sure that they are, getting the proper nutrients in general. So we're going to go over 5 myths about food allergies. So the first myth is a tiny taste won't hurt. So this is false. Some people will react to even a tiny particle. So again, a tiny little droplet of juice, inhalation. So no matter what the response is, the best thing to do is just avoid at all costs, because you never know the reaction that can occur. So just to be on the safe side, avoiding all potential risk of exposure is going to be the most important thing. And number 2, problem foods are less likely to cause allergic reactions if they are cooked. So this is false. And because the allergic component or the allergen component of foods is a protein, when proteins are cooked, they're not altered by cooking. So even cooking, let's say for instance, if someone has a meat allergy, cooking that meat is not going to change the protein structure of it, or a wheat allergy. So cooking, a baked good item is not going to change the protein in it. So cooking it isn't going to have any effect on, reducing the response of an allergy reaction. Number 3, adults don't develop allergies, which is false. So although most allergies do begin in infancy, adults can develop them as they age. So specifically fish and shellfish, these are diagnosed more so or more commonly in adults. So these are going to be, they may not have had an allergy as a child to fish or shellfish, but this can develop over time in adulthood or even, older adults as well. So just because you don't have an allergy as a child or an adolescent doesn't mean that you cannot develop one later on in life. And lactose intolerance is the same as a milk allergy, so this is false. Lactose intolerance, so milk allergy is an immune response to the reaction to the milk protein, where milk intolerance or lactose intolerance is caused by the deficiency in the enzyme that breaks down that milk sugars or lactose. So milk allergy, again, is going to cause an immune response from the milk protein, and milk intolerance is just, the digestive tract reacting to the inability to break down that lactose. So 2 different responses, 2 different causes. And number 5, allergic reactions become increasingly severe after each exposure. So this is false. It is a lot of people believe that if you repeatedly consume something that your response each time is going to get more and more severe. So maybe if you started out with hives reaction, then the next time you may have anaphylactic. So this is false. There's really no way to narrow down what the type of reaction is. So that's why, just avoiding these food products in general is going to be the most important thing. You may have it could be that you have hives one time and then the next time you have anaphylaxis, or it could be that you had, anaphylaxis and then the next time you only have hives. So there's really no way of knowing what the reaction is going to be. So the most important thing is just to avoid that food component altogether. Okay, now we are going to get started on some questions. We have 10 questions to go through. Question number 1, which of the following is not true? So A, an allergic reaction is life-threatening. B, an allergic reaction is the body's response to a particle perceived as a threat. C, a food allergy causes an immune response. Or D, an allergic reaction is non-life-threatening. So which one is not true? So the answer is D. An allergic reaction is non-life-threatening. So this is false. An allergic reaction can elicit a life-threatening, cause, such as that swelling of the throat, shortness of breath, that anaphylactic where the blood pressure drops, someone become unconscious. So it does, this is a false. Allergic reactions can be life-threatening. Next question, number 2, which of the following is not true about food intolerance or sensitivity? Letter A, food intolerance triggers a response from the digestive system. Food intolerance is non-life-threatening. Food intolerance is easy to diagnose. And D, food intolerance response requires a large amount of that food item. So which of the following is not true? The answer is C, food intolerance is easy to diagnose. So food intolerance, because there's no specific test, there's not a skin prick test, there's not a blood test to identify. Food intolerance can sometimes be difficult to diagnose. And again, diagnosing kind of utilizes, that food diary to track symptoms, or, the elimination and then reintroducing those common food items that cause sensitivities and see what an individual's reaction is. Number 3, which of the following foods is among the common food intolerances? We have A, lactose in milk, B, gluten, C, cured meats, D, high fructose corn syrup. I'm sorry, E, all of the above. So the answer is E, all of the above. So these are some of the top common food intolerances or foods that cause sensitivities. So lactose in milk, gluten, cured meats, and high fructose corn syrup are all common food intolerance foods. Next question, number 4, which of the following is considered a severe allergic reaction response? A, difficulty breathing, B, nasal congestion, C, hives or rash, or D, itching. The answer is A, difficulty breathing. So the difficulty breathing is going to be a severe allergic reaction response. Nasal congestion, hives, rash, or itching are going to be more mild responses. Number 5, which of the following is among the most common food allergies in adults? We have A, red meat, mango, corn, wheat. So the answer is D, wheat. Wheat is again among the top 5 most common food allergies in adults. Red meat, mango, and corn are going to be the more least common foods that may cause a reaction in people, so wheat is going to be among the, the top food allergies. Number 6, true or false, allergic reactions only occur if an allergen food is eaten. A, true, or B, false? So the answer is B, false. Some people can have reactions if the food item touches their skin or even inhaled. So false that, someone with a food allergy, the only way to have a response is if it is eaten. Some people with severe reactions or severe allergies can have reactions if the food item touches their skin or inhaled. Number 7, someone with a wheat allergy can consume what food item? Pasta, pancakes, rice, or crackers? And the answer is C. Rice is going to be wheat-free, so it is safe for someone to consume a food component that has rice in it. Or nowadays, again, there are so many foods that are made without wheat, wheat alternatives. So you have pasta that is made with rice, crackers that are made with rice. So thankfully, there are a lot of alternative food items that someone with a wheat allergy can consume in this type of form. Number 8, someone with a peanut allergy can have what food item? A, banana bread, B, toast with peanut butter, fries cooked in peanut oil, or D, mixed nuts? The answer is A, banana bread. So although mixed nuts are not technically peanuts, most people who do have a peanut allergy should avoid all types of nuts in general. Any type of nut could potentially cause a reaction. And then B, most nuts are produced in facilities that are, around peanuts as well. So there's always a risk, if someone can consume peanuts, but they don't have a response to regular nuts. Oftentimes, mixed nuts are going to be produced in a facility around peanuts. So general rule of thumb is just to avoid all nuts in general. And then obviously peanut butter is going to be a component that would cause a peanut allergy response, and then peanut oil is also, can potentially cause a peanut allergy response. Number 9, if someone has a food allergy, it is important to read food labels for what? A, the serving size, expiration date, C, nutritional information, or D, the ingredients and allergen content. The answer is D. If someone has a food allergy and you're wondering if they can have a food component, always looking at the ingredients, reading the ingredients for that specific food item, and then the allergen content that is going to be listed, as a potential allergy component. And last but not least, number 10, a severe allergic reaction may require all of the following treatments except what? A, medical attention, B, time, C, epinephrine, or D, CPR. And the answer is B, time. So time is going to be one thing that you do not want to prolong. So specifically because allergic reactions can occur so quickly, in less than 30 minutes, prolonging any type of treatment or attention can actually be fatal, especially if someone is having a severe allergic reaction. So it's extremely important that, if a reaction is identified, that it is addressed immediately and not prolonged care or, attention, because that amount of time that is is prolonged can cause, death, especially if they're having a severe allergic reaction. So medical attention, epinephrine, and CPR are going to be, some treatments that are going to be required immediately if someone is having, a severe allergic reaction. And that concludes today's PowerPoint. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you so much.